It is a pleasure to have you all here with us today. I am going to be recording this meeting for those who aren't able to join us. But if you haven't already, I would like to ask you guys to register to our newsletter. This new platform will be for you guys to be able to get updates on the upcoming meetings, resources, and any other events that are happening around North Carolina. So before we get started with our great speakers, I did want to do a little background about what the North Carolina Latino Disaster Recovery Alliance is about. So we have a mission, which is to minimize the severe effects of natural disasters that occur in Latino communities statewide through three things: preparation, prevention, and provision via collaborative measures. So working with all of you guys. Next, our vision is for a collaborative resource network that provides Latino communities with access to resources that assure an efficient recovery process following a natural disaster. And then lastly, to foster proactive partnerships within the disaster relief community so that we can establish plans that place emphasis on restoring and rebuilding the community post-disaster. Secondly, to collaboratively brainstorm and support the community through sustainable education that addresses plausible scenarios so that we're able to reduce the negative effects that may result from natural disasters. And lastly, to increase awareness of financial and non-financial resources available to families residing across North Carolina so that we ensure a successful recovery process. Next, I will do introductions. I know we're a small group, so this should be quick, but if you guys can share your name, title, organization, or agency that you work with, and if you guys have any upcoming events. I do this before just so we know who's on the call so that we can ask questions after for our presenters. So I'm going to start off with Alondra Vasquez. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alondra Vasquez, and I work with the Red Cross, and I'm a program coordinator for a community adaptation program. Currently, we don't have any upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Alondra. Next, I have Francisco. Good morning, Francisco.
Hola, people. Good morning. My name is Francisco Guzman. I'm with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And my updates is just make sure that you are reading every single day what's happening. Today, officially starting some reductions in Medicaid, but I will try to paste information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Next, I have Frank. Good morning, Frank. We'll loop back around for you. Next, I have Jason. Good morning, Jason.
Hey, I think that's me. Hi, all. I am Jason Pudlow. I'm a disaster researcher here at East Carolina, just jumping in to learn more about what everybody does. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Next, I have Javi. Good morning, Javi.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Javi Mendoza, and I serve as a CAP manager of the Community Adaptation Program with American Red Cross, and we do not have any upcoming events, and just glad to be on the call.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Next, I have Michelle. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Ruiz, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida, and I'm studying risk communication when it comes to hurricanes and Hispanic populations.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Next, I have Nancy. Good morning, Nancy. If not, we'll loop back around. And then lastly, we have our team. So I'll start off with Bianca.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Bianca Perez. I'm Director of Community and Cultural Affairs with AMESCAN. Culture is one of our pillars within the organization. I handle our in-person events culturally throughout the year. Two main events that we do have coming up. It's our annually Latino Festival that ends for Hispanic Heritage Month, and our Toys for Tots campaign, Posada Navideña, in December. I will add our generally newsletter that we send out every Wednesday. So please subscribe and please share it with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Next, I have Camila. Good morning, Camila.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the background noises. My name is Camila Vera. I'm the Health and Community Development Coordinator here with MXCAN, and I just joined the team like a month and a half ago, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining, Camila. Next, I have is Elizabeth. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Medina Kramer, and I'm the Director of Operations here at Mexican. It's nice to see everyone.
Thank you. And then I have Jennifer. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Rodriguez Alvarez. I'm the Director of Internship and Volunteers with the Mexican. Sorry. I am in charge of the interns and volunteers that we receive within the organization. We'll recruit interns every spring, summer, and fall. If they're interested, they can send me an email, and also volunteers for all the in-person events that we have. But I'll put my information down below if anybody wants to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, I have Rodolfo.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody's having a great day. My name is Rodolfo Martinez, and I lead our advocacy and civic engagement pillar at Mexican. And our goal here in the advocacy development pillar is to ensure that Latinos across North Carolina have equal access and representation in the areas of law, government, and civics. And a great upcoming event, I just attached a flyer and a mobilized link to the chat. We are having a municipal elections candidate forum in the city of Wilson this Thursday, starting at 6 o'clock. We hope to see you there.
Thank you, Rodolfo. And then lastly, we have Stephanie. I'll go back
Sorry,
to
she
you,
tipped
Frank.
out.
I did. I see your camera's on. So if you want to introduce yourself, Frank, you're more than welcome to.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Frank Lopez, Executive Director for North Carolina Sea Grant Program. It's a UNC system level program at NC State. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Frank. And then I'll introduce our speakers, but I do want to give them their introduction. So I'm going to go over upcoming events real quick, and then we'll hop on to you guys. So currently at Mexican, we do have a couple of events coming on. So as Rodolfo mentioned, we're going to be in the city of Wilson for our municipal elections candidate forum this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Wilson County Public Library. If you're able to join us, please feel free to come out. We'll have light refreshments, and it's going to be a great opportunity to speak and hear a little bit more about the city council candidates. On October 7th, we're going to be having our Oral Health and Latino Communities in virtual informative session. This will be in the evening from 6 to 7, and this will be a Spanish webinar. They're going to be talking about oral health, oral hygiene basics and things like that. On October 13th at 11 a.m., we're going to be having our next North Carolina Latino Community Task Force meeting. We're going to be having our representative from NC Child share a little bit more about what's going on at the house, any bills that are happening and affecting our children. So this is going to be a great opportunity to join and hear a little bit more and ask questions. Next, we have our food drives. So the first one will be this Friday here in Pitt County. First come, first serve. We do ask if they can bring a small bag or a box to be able to put their items into. It'll be at our Belvoir Highway location. So if you know anybody in Pitt or surrounding areas that are in need of food, please send them our way. That following Monday on the 13th at 4 p.m., we're going to be having our food drive in Wilson County at the Seeds of Hope location. We have opened up for Toys for Tots. So if you know of any families or children that are in need of toys for Christmas season, please call us. The 3 numbers are on the flyer, and we'll be sharing this information as well. It's for kids ages 0 to 12. Again, open for registration, and this will end first weeks of November. Next, we have our English classes launching again. These are going to be every Wednesdays from 8 to 9 and every Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. and they will be held virtually. So anybody is welcome to join. They will be intermediate levels. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the email or the number or us, and we'll be happy to direct you to the correct person. Next, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is here. So what a Mexican is going to be doing is a 5K. It will be in Greenville on October 31st. We have interest forms available. Also, if you guys are interested in joining us and setting up a table or sponsoring, we're also welcoming those as well. So we hope you guys are able to join us to participate in this 5K, and all proceeds will be going towards a local organization that supports breast cancer in the community. On Saturday, October 25th, we are going to be having our Day of the Dead Festival in Wilson County with collaboration of Seeds of Hope. This event will be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Whirligig Park. There's going to be lots of music, contests, food, and there are spots open if you would like to set up a table as well. Next, our big event of the year is coming right around the corner on Saturday, October 18th, our Latino Festival. We do have some spaces available if you would like to set up a table for your organization or agency. We have Bianca on the call as well, and I'm sure she's sending out her email in the chat box. If you guys are interested in joining us that day, spots are available. We have our performers, our dancers, so we're excited to celebrate Latino Heritage Month at this event. And that concludes. So first, we're going to start off with our guest speakers. So we have Samantha Graham. She serves as the Director of Outreach for the Division of Community Revitalization at the North Carolina Department of Commerce. In this role, she works to ensure the communities affected by Hurricane Helene are aware of the recovery opportunities through housing and urban development funding. She formerly serves as the Director of Community Initiatives at the Institute of Emergent Issues at North Carolina State University, where she oversees statewide community development programs. Samantha was previously the Program Manager for the Office of Outreach and Engagement at NC State University and a Strategic Project Manager at Industry Expansion Solutions. Before joining NC State, she was a Community Outreach Coordinator for North Carolina Broadband at the North Carolina Department of Commerce and the North Carolina Rural Center. Samantha holds a master's in city and regional planning from Clemson University and a bachelor's from UNC Chapel Hill. Originally from Western North Carolina, she now lives in Raleigh with her husband, 3 children, and dog Frankie. We also have Rylan Allen. She is an ethics-driven leader with over 14 years of experience in grant and contract management. Specializing in federal financial management, compliance, and strategic planning, she has worked extensively with state and local governments on disaster recovery, affordable housing, and community development projects, combining technical expertise with a community-centered approach to ensure compliance, maximizing funding, and deliver sustainable outcomes. Raylan currently serves as Deputy Director for the Renews NC's Single Family Housing Program Implementation Contractor, leading large-scale housing recovery efforts across North Carolina. She holds a master's degree in history with a focus on public policy and has worked in housing across New York, California, Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona, bringing a broad perspective and deep commitment to equitable community development. So with that, I will pass it over to you guys, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. I'm just going to share, is it okay to share a couple of slides?
Yes. So I think you guys are co-hosts now, so let me know if you have any issues with that.
I just have a few, and then Raylan is going to dive in deeper on our single family housing program. So I'm Samantha Graham. I'm the Director of Outreach at the Division of Community Revitalization. We are a new division housed in the Department of Commerce, and we were set up to manage the funds from HUD for Helene recovery. So the state received $1.4 billion allocated for Hurricane Helene relief from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We received these funds quicker than any other state has received funds after a hurricane, and we hit the ground running back in March. So the allocation for these funds of the 1.4 billion, 807 million is for our single family housing program. 191 million is for our multifamily housing program. 53 million is for our workforce housing for ownership, which will launch next year. 194 million is for our community infrastructure program. 111 is for economic revitalization. Our HUD requirements are that we spend at least 80% of these funds within the HUD mid areas, which are the most impacted and distressed counties that were identified by HUD after the storm. These counties are in red here. 20% of the funds can be spent in the state mid areas. Those are the ones in blue. HUD requires that at least 70% of the funds must benefit low to moderate income households and communities. An action plan had to be proposed and approved by HUD and sent out for public comment. That is on our website, and I can link it in the chat once Raylan's speaking. And of course, we must comply with all federal laws around procurement, environmental housing, and employment. Here's a further breakdown of these funds. So within multifamily housing, we have small projects. These are 250,000 to 1.5 million, and they would be for developments that are fewer than 5 units. So large projects, 500,000 to 15 million. Private developers, local governments, public and nonprofit organizations can apply for the multifamily housing program. Same for workforce housing for ownership, which will launch next year. And for economic revitalization and community infrastructure, local governments and nonprofits can apply for economic, and then just local governments for community infrastructure. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Raylan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. So my name is Raylan Allen. I'm the Deputy Director for the implementation contract for the single family housing program. I'm also a Helene survivor. I was living in my home in West Asheville at the time of Helene, and I was on the ground. My experience is between HUD and FEMA. So I was quickly recruited and left my position that I had when the storm hit to work directly in Asheville. And I was boots on the ground at the Emergency Operations Center by October 10th. And then I transitioned to this position statewide early July. So I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to give a program overview of the single family housing program. Is everyone able to see my screen? Okay, great. So the program mission here is Renew NC's single family housing program is North Carolina's long-term disaster recovery effort to address the remaining unmet needs for owner-occupied single family housing in areas that were affected by Hurricane Helene. We are providing housing and mobile home rehabilitation, repair, reconstruction, replacement, and in some cases, reimbursement. And Sam already touched on this, but Renew NC is a program delivered through the North Carolina Department of Commerce Division of Community Revitalization, and we're funded by HUD through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery allocation that was set into law January of this year. And I like to highlight that CDBG-DR funding isn't a rolling program. It's an allocation based on need. So this allocation overall was around $12 billion, and it went to other disasters such as the Maui wildfires. So when Sam says that we got this money quite quickly, we did. You know, the Maui wildfires happened around 2 years ago, whereas this funding became available just a few short months after Helene hit. So the program benefits of the single family housing program are home reconstruction, home rehabilitation and repair, and manufactured home replacement. So I'll say MHU when I'm talking about a manufactured home, mobile home. The mobile home has two different tracks here. So we would need landlord consent to replace a mobile home on the land of an owner-occupied MHU if they rented the land. If we're unable to obtain that landlord approval, we will help relocate and replace that mobile home on a new parcel of land. We also have another track where if MHU, owner occupied MHU owns the land that they're on, they will have the choice to either replace their manufactured home or have a stick-built home. We do recognize that that's not for everyone because stick-built homes have much higher taxes on them than mobile homes. But we work closely with different community groups that could maybe help that family, if they really wanted a stick-built home, be able to come in. Different nonprofits have funding to help them pay for taxes for the first 2 years and set them up for success with that. So that's the mobile home replacement. So our program areas, we're in 28 counties, including one zip code in Mecklenburg. They're broken up by HUD identified distressed areas and state distressed areas. I'll get to that a little later. But what that means is HUD comes in first and foremost and identifies where the most hard hit areas are, and then allows the state to come to the table to also propose areas that were hit that they would like to have this funding go to. Our eligibility criteria, all applicants must meet the following criteria to qualify for the program. So they must have owned the damaged property at the time that Helene hit on September 27th, 2024, and they must still own the property. And the applicant must have occupied the home as a primary residence. This program serves primary residents, not secondary homes. Oftentimes, secondary homes are vacation homes, so we want to make sure that we are serving the community that with the highest needs. The property damage must have been from Hurricane Helene, and it must be an eligible structure type. So what I mean there is it must be a MHU mobile home unit or a stick-built home. Unfortunately, Helene did show that many families across Western North Carolina were living in RVs. Unfortunately, this program does not replace or repair RVs. There's two other eligibility criteria that can seem a little intimidating to applicants, and we still want all applicants to apply. And one of them is they need to be current or in good standing on their property taxes. We work closely with tax departments across the Helene affected area to help get them on a good standing plan if they are behind, because we found local governments want their communities to recover, whether they're up to date on their taxes or not. So our case managers and leadership work closely with those who are behind on their taxes to see if we can work with that municipality to get them on a payment plan. If there's a mortgage on the property, the mortgage must also be in good standing. That's something we work, if the mortgage is not in good standing, we work largely with our nonprofit legal partners, like Legal Aid for North Carolina or Pisgah Legal, to see if they can work directly with the lender to get in good standing there. So the crux of the eligibility criteria is income. We focus on a very low income to moderate income for this program. So our program is based on area median income. That is determined by HUD and determined by the county you live in, along with your household size. So if you're in Buncombe County, like I was during the storm, and household size of 1, my area median income is going to be very different than someone in Yancey County with a household size of 4. So we're looking for those folks who have the lowest income and prioritize them first. The documentation needed to apply, valid photo ID, proof of citizenship, income documentation, and this can look different for everyone. You could have some people haven't worked since the storm because their job was washed away. So it would income proof of no income could be income documentation, a W-2, a 1099, or if they're receiving benefits like Social Security, our case managers work closely with the household to determine what their income documentation looks like. Proof of ownership of the house or the MHU, proof of primary residence, proof of damage, and then proof of insurance for the damaged household. So a lot of folks either didn't have insurance or did receive some insurance money. We do a thorough duplication of benefits analysis and gap funding. So if they did receive some money from insurance, but they were not fully able to repair their home to up to building code status or pre-Helene conditions, we will fill that gap. Um, Proof of disability, we also prioritize. I'll talk about our priorities in a minute. Folks in households with somebody who has a disability. Then there is the power of attorney or communication designee, if applicable. So if a individual is unable to communicate with us, they can either legally have a power of attorney that can sign documentation and make decisions on their behalf, or they could have a communication designee that can help communicate back and forth with our program and case managers. A communication designee is usually a community advocate or a family member. They're not legally allowed to make decisions for the household, but they're able to help communicate, gather documentation, and share information about the household. And then any benefit information from other recovery sources, that's that duplication of funding I talked about earlier. If folks receive some money from FEMA or SBA, we take that into account to determine their scope of award. Sam, did you go off?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the chat, but while we're here on this slide, could you talk about the proof of citizenship? Does permanent residency documents apply or a DACA?
Proof of citizenship, yeah, both apply.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, question now that we're on this as well. So, I know sometimes FEMA allows children, when a disaster happens, to be able to apply for these resources, and if the parents don't have documentation, does that apply to this, or is it a different process, or is it really restricted since it's coming from federal funding?
Yeah, things are changing at a rapid pace, and I can't necessarily answer that question truthfully now because it's a little bit with the current administration drinking from a fire hose with different directives coming out pretty quickly, not as fast as they were in January and February. But for this case, no, children aren't able to apply. And that's because they have to have proof of ownership of the home. So where that if the adult is the ownership of has the deed to the house, that's part of the eligibility criteria. So unfortunately, not the child, because I doubt they would have the deed in their name.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wish we had more lenience around that. Any other questions in the chat, Sam? So application methods, we have an online portal that you can use a laptop. We have a mobile app that you can download. We recognize, especially in Western North Carolina, there are a lot of households who do not, well, still are missing broadband. You know, there's some areas that are still so devastated in this area that internet has not returned. And that many, depending on age group, don't have access to a laptop or a smartphone. So you can call our 888 number and be connected to a case manager. We have three main intake centers that are below there: Asheville, Marion, and Boone. At each of those locations, we have two bilingual case managers per location, as well as one bilingual team lead. So we have three bilingual staff at all three of those locations in different capacities. So we have the case manager, and then we also have that one step above if people are having a hard time communicating with their case manager or have higher level questions, we have that bilingual team lead in place as well to support the case manager. In person, any of our program service areas, our service centers are open from 8 to 6 p.m. They're in Asheville, Marion, and Boone, but we do have several satellite offices that I will bring up quickly here. So our Renew NC website is a really great resource for it pretty much has everything on it where events, locations. So if we go here, you'll see that we have our main intake centers and then we've added satellite locations across different counties. We're always open to more satellite locations. We have plans to be in Yancey County within the next week, have a case manager set up there. They just set up their LTRG, their long-term recovery group in Yancey County. So additionally on this, if you go to resources, we have Spanish materials available on the website. We have our policies and procedures in Spanish. We also have a quick overview of Renew NC Family Housing Program in Spanish. And we also have, and I can send to this group after this call, we have our toolkit, which is like our kind of comprehensive explanation of the program that we share with partners versus the public. So I can send both English and Spanish to you all after this. And then our outreach materials, flyers, postcards, we also have in Spanish. And we do table events when we're asked, and we always ask, do they need a bilingual case manager so that we can ensure we're setting up the event for success in terms of being able to communicate. And we are set up every weekend at the Swannanoa Farmers Market, which we send a Spanish-speaking case manager there each weekend. So applications are based on 4 key factors. One, where do you live? So the HUD mid areas, and this it has priority over the state mid areas because they had much more destruction than the state mid areas. Your taxable household income is measured by area median income. So we're looking at low income, below 60% area median income. For our first phase, our second phase is below 80% area median income. We also have the household need as a priority. So if anyone in the home is under age 18 or over the age of 62 or has a disability, they are priority. And so if you think about phase 1, 60% AMI and below, HUD mid area, and then either has a minor, senior, or individual with a disability in the home, they are a top priority for our first 2 phases for the 60% and the 80. And then repair status, whether your repairs are complete or still needed, will determine which part of the program you're eligible for. So 80% of the funds must be allocated to the HUD mid areas and 20% are allocated to the state mid areas. Here's the list of the HUD mid that I'll just read off. It's Ashe, Avery, Buncombe, Burke, Caldwell, Cleveland, Haywood, Henderson, Madison, McDowell, and then the 28214 area code in Mecklenburg, Mitchell, Polk, Rutherford, Transylvania, Watauga, and Yancey. So 80% of that $807 million is going to be focused on those counties. And like I said, with the priority, the 60% and under with the demographic priorities, then 80. And then our third area is for below 80%, where we will do reimbursements. So if a household is able to make the repairs and rehab their own home, and they're below 80% AMI and they are eligible for our program, we will reimburse them for those eligible costs. As I said, we had the priorities of this. It's good to see it on screen, the below 60%, the below 80, and then we do have a 4th phase that I haven't mentioned yet, which is below 120% area median income, with the prioritization on seniors, children, and households with disabilities. This is just another kind of chart that shows you those phases outlined here. Steps to recovery through our program start with application submission. People can submit without documentation. We're encouraging folks to submit if they think whether they think they're eligible or not. We are hoping to get 10,000 applications by the end of the application window. The application window ends on December 31st of this year. It's been open since June 16th, but we're really gaining traction with our outreach and our just our marketing of the program. So I think we're at like 3,500 applications. The reason why we want to get to 10,000 is because there's a big fallout rate for this type of program. There's many reasons for that. One, it's federal funding. We're kind of the big gorilla in the room with the most red tape. So eligibility criteria, people can fall out for not being eligible. They can also choose not to accept their award type or find help for their home in another way that's best suited for them. We're definitely not a one-size-fits-all program due to our eligibility requirements and what we provide. So that 10,000 application submission is really important so that we can drill it down to hopefully serve around 3,000 of those applications. The more applications we receive, the more we can identify whether or not we could potentially also go to the federal government to appeal for additional funding, because like Sam said, this was the fastest DR allocation to a state in the history of this allocation. So if we find there's a larger need, I think that we would have a really good reason to appeal. So the application submits all their documentation. There's a 7-day turnaround for eligibility determination. They'll find out if they're eligible or not within 7 days. If they're eligible, step 2 is sort of one of the longer steps, and as we will send a damage assessor out. The damage assessment happens within 2 to 3 weeks. The damage assessment could either wrap up or trigger further inspections on the septic, on the well. So if the damage assessment does not trigger any additional inspections, it'll be a little bit shorter of a site eligibility time period. If it does trigger other inspections, it'll be a little bit longer. And then within that phase, once all those inspections and assessments are complete, we do an environmental review because we need to make sure that we're building a home and back on land that's going to be able to support that home for a long period of time. So the environmental review is also around 45 to 60 days. So you're looking at from step 1 to step 2, around 2.5 months before a applicant will will get their award. We want homeowners to have agency in the decision that's best for them. Once the award comes out, they are able to say, yes, and sign the homeowner grant agreement, or no, this isn't going to work for me, and remove themselves from the program. Step 4, if they agree with their award and sign the contract, pre-construction and construction begin. And we're not sure what this timeline looks like because a lot of these programs haven't had to run in areas where there is winter. So we're looking at 30 to 90 days of pre-construction and construction. I do want to share kind of a big win, which since it's early on in the program, but we replaced a mobile home unit in 31 hours last week because we're at the beginning of stages. So, I mean, it could be anywhere from something like, a couple days to about 3 months. Spanish resources, I already talked about the bilingual case managers and team lead in each office. So that's 3 locations. They are deployed to different events depending on the need. We will have Spanish radio ads to begin this month on Asheville's Hispanic radio. Our materials, our Spanish resources include the policies and procedures, the quick review of the Renew NC family housing program. We also have the outreach materials. I'll share the toolkit with you all, and then flyers and postcards. And then we're also we attended the Carolina event last week where English and Spanish resources were shared across the several entities here. And then El Centro Brevard and True Ridge we're working with as well. So that concludes my presentation on the single family housing program. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. You guys are welcome to unmute or enter in the chat. But I did have a question. Is there any update on how many homes you guys have been able to secure with this funding, or how are you guys closer to getting that goal of 10,000? Or is there still like a gap in between the goal that you guys want?
Yeah, so let me bring some of the dashboards up. We have some dashboards that are a little bit hard to see, but I can explain them. Um, so so to date, we have 3,580 applications submitted. Of those, 708 are eligible and 2,485 are in review. So that's that eligibility review phase. So far only 44 have been ineligible, and these are really small here, but what I'm really proud of is the priority phases. So of those that have been submitted, 2,195 are that phase one HUD mid below 60 with a child minor or senior in the home. So that shows us like which my personal like what keeps me in this line of work is when we're serving the most vulnerable populations. So we have around 139 in priority one, phase two, and then phase four, we have 240. I can also show you another. We're running two outreach campaigns right now. One is a FEMA call campaign, and another one is a door-to-door canvassing campaign. It took quite some time to get data sharing agreement with different entities. So once we were able to get a data sharing agreement with North Carolina Disaster Case Management, we were able to scrub a list down of around 22,000 households that we were able to begin a call campaign. What that call campaign looks like is a first call. If the household doesn't answer, we send a text and an email, and then a second call, text, email, third text, email. This campaign has been responsible for 1,083 submissions since it began, and that it didn't begin until August 12th. So we're really gaining traction there. And then the door-to-door campaign, we significantly increased staffing and created a new logistical plan based on geocoding and took different lists from FEMA IA data, SBA data, substantial damage county data to come up with 38,000 target households across the whole healing impacted region. Our goal is to knock on every single one of those households, and so far we've knocked on 10,000. And the door knocking campaign is responsible for 501 applications so far. So if you look at this, we're really, the beginning of the rollout was pretty low, but you'll see a lot of these spikes. And I think that we're closer to the 10,000. It's, my personal goal that we'll get there. It's going to be a lot of work between now and the end of the year. But I have found out yesterday, and Sam, you don't know this, I'll be adding 75 more people to my outreach door-to-door campaign so that we can try to get to those 38,000 before December 1st.
That's awesome. Thank you for
And that was a surprise. My leadership was like, surprise. And so
that is so awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I'll pass it to you, Frank.
I had a question. Thank you so much for bringing this information to us. The question I have is in other parts of the state, because of lack of clear title, that sometimes that can be an impediment to being able to have people participate. Have you run into that in the western part of the state as much?
In terms of the confusion of the name of the program?
Or the actual ownership of the property. It's kind of air properties in the eastern part of the state it can be an issue at times.
I don't think I understand the question. Sam, are you able to answer that one?
Oh, I think, are we seeing that um the deed being in the owner's
Oh,
name is having an issue, like some with heir
yes.
property, like it being passed down, that it's not in the
Okay.
person's name who lives there.
I didn't understand what you meant by error. I apologize. So yes, unfortunately, that is quite the roadblock. And what we're doing is so a large part of my job. I work closely with Sam. Even though I'm based in Raleigh, I've been 80% in Western North Carolina. So as these local disaster recovery partnership, long-term recovery groups are emerging, we're working closely with them to work through those issues with the deeds. We had a situation in one of the counties where the homeowner was incapacitated at that time. Her daughter was her caretaker, and the deed was not in her name quite yet, and the woman passed away before the program started. So we are working on exception policy for really unique situations like that. But when it's pretty black and white about the deed, we are working again, we're leaning heavily on our legal nonprofit partners. Like, where is the loophole that we could figure out how that we could show that a deed should have been backdated? And so it's pretty black and white in some areas and then very gray in other areas. But if we can follow the documentation that the household, if we can follow the documentation, and it might not be the deed, it could be the FEMA IA documentation or who was applying for FEMA at that time. We have, folks, Frank, that there are four owners of the home, but only one is the primary residence. So, you know, it's certainly a roadblock for many of our households, but we're doing our best to to see if the documentation can tell a story that would make it eligible. Thanks for asking that.
Thank you, Rylan. And Leslie?
Yes, hi. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I have a question for you. I'm living in South Carolina. I'm always attend to the meetings with the group, but I have a question for you. If it's any difference with FEMA in each state? Do you think it's different in each state, or they can work in like same in everywhere?
Okay, so I worked on FEMA contracts for about 6 years, and every state government does have a different emergency management department. So example I'll give is Florida. Florida has the Division of Emergency Management. North Carolina has the North Carolina Emergency Management Department. They are all ran by a secretary of emergency management in each state. So how the state executes and implements FEMA funding can vary. But whether or not um, FEMA FEMA's changed a lot this year, so I can only really speak to previous FEMA work, and the last FEMA contract I worked on was for the city of Asheville. And it's the same process that FEMA deploys, but that does depend on the president and the federal government.
Okay, thank you so much. I have another question. Do you guys think you can share that presentation with us?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
thank you. I can appreciate that because I'm a CHW in South Carolina, and this month we have in a presentation with our state, but I making this presentation in Spanish, and I will love to share that information to our CHWs in here. Just, I mean, basic information like the websites and everything in case they have any families in North Carolina, if is that okay with you guys.
Yeah, certainly. So I just want to make one distinction. The single family, I'm happy to share all my material. The single family housing program is for North Carolina only, but South
Yes.
Carolina did receive their own community development block grant disaster recovery allocation. And let me just look it up for you really quick. I'll pull those stats. I pulled them earlier for a group in South Carolina. What was the
Thank you so much.
CDBG? Yeah. So let me get that. So I've worked closely with I'm a consultant, so I've worked closely with folks who were on the ground in South Carolina as well right
Oh,
after Helene. So HUD DR provided, hold on, actually. Um the CDBG DR allocation for South Carolina for Hurricane Helene is 150,354. Wait, 150. Yep. 354,000. So of that, um, let me see, what did they go to? What is the allocation of the CDBGDR South Carolina? I'm trying to get stats on the housing one. I apologize. Sorry, I just want to give you these statistics quick.
We appreciate it. Thank
If
you.
I can, yeah. So it was actually, they broke it out to single family housing, affordable rental housing, voluntary buyouts. So what that means is like the buyout of the property and then mitigation. And let me see the dollar amounts.
And while you mentioned that rental, does this program offer rental services as well, or is it just, building the home or replacing the home?
So Sam can talk more on that. The single family housing program that I represent, she works across all the CDBG-DR programs. I'm the deputy director of the single family housing that does not assist renters. But Sam, do you want to talk about the program that's coming out?
Yeah, do you mean assisting their rental while their
Yes.
home is being rebuilt?
Hmm.
Because we will have a small landlord program. So if someone owns rentals, that's part of our program. But as far as paying for housing while someone is getting their home rebuilt, we do not have that in our current program. Raylan, do you have more details? I know that we aren't doing that, but
In
we
terms
are
of
working with partners to try to find solutions
so
if someone needs to be out of their home. But yeah,
yeah.
Raylan.
So that's another big, I would say, when I talk about one size fits all program, we do not have the funding for transitional housing for folks who are having their home rebuilt. We have some amazing partners in different counties, and I'll bring up Rebuilding Haywood. So they were able to purchase several FEMA trailers through a program. So we work closely with them to say, hey, this person's home's going to be rebuilt. It's going to take X amount of time. So they largely operate in Haywood County, but they will help, if allowable, move that FEMA trailer onto the property, or if it's not safe based on the construction, find property for them. So we're also working closely in Buncombe with folks who have funding for rehabilitation that can refer to our program instead, and then we do the rehab and they provide the funding for transitional housing. So it's very much like we don't provide it, and it's a huge roadblock in a lot of the counties because they just don't have the housing stock, the rental housing stock. So the best solution so far has been Rebuild Haywood, and I hope that we can like with all the community groups replicate that system throughout the areas that don't have the rental housing available to even have somebody pay the rent while they're there. And hotel stays as well. So, we're in Western North Carolina in 28 counties. So, um, we don't want to have to move them out of their county because they don't have the rental stock or the hotel capacity. So we're hoping that Rebuild Haywood is kind of going to be the standard on how these other long-term recovery groups and disaster recovery partnerships can repeat that strategy across the counties. But that's just something, we're
Yeah.
building a plane as we fly it,
Yeah.
with that.
You. And I know Samantha, you shared the first couple of slides and it had certain allocations. Those allocations, I know some of them were nonprofits could apply for. Are those for rebuilding, or are those, ways that those nonprofits can, access that funding and provide support in that aspect while the homes are getting rebuilt?
Right. So nonprofits can apply for the multifamily housing program. So that would be like if you are a nonprofit developer, like Rebuild Haywood, and you want to build a development 5 units or more, then you can apply for this program. And then you also then take on the reporting and the procurement and the employment requirements of HUD. Nonprofits can be partners on an application as well for multifamily housing or economic development um, revitalization. And then you don't have like the onerous sort of reporting to do. But we are partnering with nonprofits regardless in all of our programs just to get the word out. And knowing that a lot of these smaller communities do not have the capacity to handle all the reporting and needs of CDBG-DR. So if you all are interested in getting plugged in further, please let us know. And Raylan is really active with our LTRGs. I'm attending an LTRG meeting at noon. So yeah, I think that everyone is, if you're willing to be a part of it, people are very happy to include additional stakeholders and partners. We're working closely with the Association of County Commissioners, the League of Municipalities, the 5 COGs in the region, and just it's going to take all of us to get Western North Carolina back.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Can I comment something? I mean, as a CHW, I think you guys can contact all the CHWs in North Carolina too, because we are the bridge with our population. People trust in us, and we can get more help to our community. It's just one opinion. Thank you so much for all this information. It's very, very, very interesting. Thank you.
And in that vein, if you all could do warm introductions to your organizations with us, and Raylan and I are happy to do these presentations. Of course, Raylan's doing the heavy lifting here, but if she can't attend, I can do it, and vice versa. And we just want to, get the word out as much as possible. So if you have meetings, if you have events that case managers or the outreach team can be at, please invite us. As Raylan mentioned, like we have a booth, we have people can start applying there on the spot, and let us know if there needs to be, someone who is bilingual as well.
Awesome. Thank you. We might have you join our North Carolina Latino Resource Network meeting. That one's where we have different Latino organizations across the state, and we have a couple, True Ridge, that was on that call. We have a couple more that it would be beneficial. They probably already heard of you guys, but to get a full in depth of all the services and resources that you guys have. So thank you. We appreciate it. And I don't think there's any more questions. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the weather. I know the sun came out, so that's good for us. But thank you again, Samantha and Raylan. We appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great, great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.